But first tonight, how mums are being branded as criminals and their babies taken as evidence. Having a home birth is not illegal, but if something goes wrong, when the happiest day of a parent's life becomes their worst, homes are being raided by police and turned into crime scenes. Here's PJ Madam with our Australia-wide investigation.
What's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
Baby's just been born, it's not breathing.
Someone's just given birth to a baby at home, is it right?
Yes.
Is the baby conscious, ma'am?
Oh, I'll just check. Is the baby conscious? No.
Was it a female or male or female?
It's a little girl.
Why did the police turn up to your door?
I don't know.
And what alerted them?
I don't know.
Or who alerted them?
I don't know. I've never ever heard of the police turning up at the same time as the ambulance.
Soon after Janet Fraser's baby daughter was born, her home became a crime scene.
They took our video, they took our stills camera, and they took a lot of video and photographs of their own. I was allowed to hold her for a while, and then I was told that she had to be taken.
Why?
Because she was evidence.
It's a scenario being repeated around the country when home births turn deadly. It's not illegal to have a home birth.
No,
but
it's illegal when you lose a child.
Oh, it's a little boy.
Giving birth is one of life's gifts. And while most Australian women choose to do it in hospital, more than 1,300 a year give birth at home.
Just tear up in little pieces. Little pieces.
Which brings us to Annie and Chris Palmer. Chris is a nurse. Annie is a journalist.
The babies are coming. Look, the babies.
They're home birth converts, but at first they were skeptics.
I thought it was for hippies. I thought there's so much risk with home birth.
So what was it that changed your mind?
A home birth it's a natural birth. There's no drugs, no induction.
She's out. She's out.
She's out.
She's here.
Oh.
My baby. Are you okay? Beautiful.
Everything went well.
Very healing. I don't know how to explain that, but it was very healing, very empowering.
2.5 years after Lily was born, Annie and Chris were overjoyed to discover they were pregnant again. Finally, their dream of having a big family would be coming true. But it wasn't until 6 months later that they found out they would be having twins.
I was almost there. It's so big.
But there was a problem. You're meeting with the obstetrician. What did they advise you?
They advised us to have an elective C-section because Max was breech.
Chris, as a nurse, how did you feel?
Nerves with that, but the chances were pretty good.
But then there was another warning. At 37 weeks, their midwife quit because she too was worried about complications. So Annie and Chris turned to this woman.
Hello, I'm a birth worker. My name is Lisa Barrett and I'm from South Australia.
For legal reasons, Lisa Barrett no longer calls herself a midwife. She doesn't give interviews. This is a rare public appearance.
But I am saying as a care provider, you have to be very thick-skinned. You have to be able to put up with a headline that says baby slaughterer.
When Annie and Chris hired Lisa, she'd already been present at the deaths of 2 babies. A South Australian coroner later found those deaths could have been prevented if the births had happened in hospital. Did you know of her history at the time?
I knew of her. Yeah, of her history.
It didn't deter you?
No.
On the 3rd of July 2011, Annie went into labour. Her daughter Lily was there. Lisa Barrett is to the right, wearing glasses. There was also a registered midwife present. Max arrives without complications, but minutes later, joy turns to panic. His brother has problems. Lisa Barrett tells Annie to push. She suffers what's known as a full placental abruption.
He was lifeless, and he was white, and his umbilical cord was not pulsing. I could see that. I took him in my arms, and I named him. And right away, his name came out of me, and Sam, my beautiful boy. And somebody took me out of the water, put me on the sofa, and that's it.
But that wasn't it. In the early hours of that morning, Annie was cradling her surviving son, Max, while grieving the loss of his twin brother, Sam. Then, suddenly, out of nowhere, police arrived at the hospital to question her. The family had become the target of a criminal investigation. Detectives searched their home, seized their birthing pool, and went through their rubbish looking for evidence that would be presented to the coroner. Do you feel that you killed your baby?
No. There are risks in hospital, and there is at home. And you have to choose what you can live with. And as horrible as it is, I can live with that. It doesn't make it easier.
The West Australian coroner has ordered an inquest into Sam's death. Annie will be called to give evidence, and so will Lisa Barrett.
I was cut off from the midwifery associations.
3 months after Sam died, Barrett attended another home birth, which also ended in a placental abruption and the death of another twin. It was her 4th home birth tragedy, and it wouldn't be her last.
You have to close your ears when people are saying it's because you're dangerous or because you're negligent.
For me, it was probably more about trying to take control of the situation and of the birth.
Well, I felt as though it was a selfish decision for Sarah to make because I feel as though the baby's well-being should be put ahead of the mother's.
3-year-old Emily Di Piazza is the love of her parents' life. But there's no love lost between mum and dad after Emily narrowly survived a home birth that went very wrong.
Back on? I felt like my fears and my concerns weren't respected during the pregnancy, and it turns out I was right.
Luke didn't want a home birth.
Mummy's turn?
His wife Sarah did.
Yeah, I sort of felt like I had no say in it.
On February 2nd, 2010, with a midwife present, Sarah went into labour at home. Baby Emily was bottom first, in breech position. Panic set in.
Emergency responding.
I knew from the midwife's tone of voice and her language to the ambulance that it was really serious.
Can you remember what she said down the phone line?
Can you get here now? We've got a breech baby, you need to get here now.
Luke lifted me up and kind of grabbed me and pushed me and just held me down twice, and then Emily came out. A lot of it I don't really remember because it was just absolute shock, and I just thought I have to accept that this baby may die.
Emily survived, but the breech birth left her tiny hip badly injured, and she'd spend months in a brace. Would you consider a home birth again?
Absolutely not.
Too traumatic?
I believe that I was very much focused on the rights of a woman and the woman's pregnancy and labour, And now I'm focused on the rights of the child and their right to life. And I personally believe that if there's a 1% chance that a baby will survive from being in hospital care, then that's a chance that you don't risk having a home birth if there's that chance that they could die.
What about you, Luke?
Even if she wanted to have a home birth, I would not have another child if that was the case. I'm not really here to tell other women what they should do with their pregnancies, but it's dangerous, and all my fears really they come true.
The only person whose opinion matters in the birth of a child is that of the mother. The mother is the person who wears the consequences of that birth for the rest of her life.
Janet Fraser's baby, Roisin, died during what's called a free birth. It's a home birth without a midwife to offer help if something goes wrong. Janet passionately believed her home was a safer, more nurturing environment than hospital. And where was it? Was it in the lounge? Did you set up a space?
I've given birth in my study twice now.
Did you have any drugs on hand or any...
No, that would be completely unsafe and inappropriate for me to do that because I'm not trained in their use.
Okay. What about resuscitation equipment?
You don't carry things like that at a home birth, not at a free birth.
Okay. And what about a stethoscope even?
What would I do with that?
To monitor the baby's heartbeat?
Once a baby is earthside, it's pretty easy to see whether their heart's beating or not.
Okay. Did you have a plan in place if anything went wrong?
We always have a plan in place in life, let alone in birth, if something goes wrong.
And what was it?
Well, if something happens to anyone in my home that is bad, I call an ambulance.
What's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
Baby's just in it's not breathing.
They were rushed to hospital, but all attempts to resuscitate Roisin failed. Janet's home became a crime scene. Her baby daughter became evidence. Janet and her de facto husband were both grieving parents and suspects.
We weren't allowed to be alone with our baby because she was now evidence, and I couldn't work out what she was evidence of. And she had tubes and things on her which they wouldn't let us remove because that was more of this evidence. She wore it very briefly in the hospital before the police took her.
After the police had finished their work, Janet and her partner went to the morgue to see Roisin one last time. Soon after, the relationship broke up.
It takes more than legs to hold you up when you hold your dead baby. So I sat there and held her, and he held her, and we cried.
So you know the accusations that if you had have gone to hospital that things would have been different?
Yes, I know. But none of the women who birth in hospital whose babies die are ever told that if they'd been at home it would have been different. I got hit with bad luck on that occasion. That's it. It happens. It happened to my own sister whose baby was born still in a hospital.
In your case, would that bad luck have been prevented if you were in hospital?
No.
The New South Wales Deputy Coroner disagreed, finding that everyone at the birth of Roisin was completely unprepared.
There's no crime here. There is a stillbirth. It's no crime.
You're saying stillbirth?
Yes.
The coroner doesn't agree.
That's okay.
The coroner believes that there were signs of life.
The coroner has to believe that, or there couldn't be an inquiry.
If your baby were to die at the hospital and they said, did you ever have an afternoon nap? You can't say yes.
Lisa Barrett continues to advise mothers-to-be.
Because they'll say, well, that's why your baby died.
Last December, she attended another home birth, another fatality, the 5th under her watch. South Australian police are investigating that death, a one-day-old baby born in the breech position.
Her figures are catastrophic. Her rate of death during delivery would be completely unacceptable to any obstetrician practising in Australia or any Western country.
At Sir Charles Gardner Hospital in Perth.
Has it been kicking much?
Yeah.
Dr. David Mountain has seen too many babies rush to emergency because of complications during home births. He wants all high-risk home births banned.
We know that babies that are born at home, certainly in the Australian environment, there's about a 3 times higher death rate for those babies who are born at home.
And we keep talking and talking about the risk of home birth and focusing on the risk of home birth when so many risks in hospital as well.
It's very obvious this has completely changed your life. If you were to meet someone and you wanted to expand your family, would you consider a free birth or a home birth?
I have no idea.
Would you?
The odds of that happening are very slim. I'm a 44-year-old single woman with 2 children and a frightening media profile. There aren't really men lining up.
As for Annie, she's counting the days until she'll find out whether her home birth was a crime. Right or wrong, guilty or not, the loss won't ever go away.
I would like just to grieve, just to grieve.
PJ Madam reporting, and there are now calls for a new charge of fetal homicide to be brought into law. Meanwhile, many midwives are demanding greater legal protection to allow women to continue to have the option of giving birth at home rather than in hospital. And our thanks to the people in our story on both sides who bravely agreed to speak. Next, one daredevil Aussie tackles the most wild and thrilling bike race on earth.